Morning. Alright. Oh, I haven't got my ears on. But you can't see that anyway because I've also not got this on. That's Discord. Minimise, you swine. Yeah. That was a smooth start, wasn't it? Just forget that I'm using that monitor for something else at that point. So, anyway, how are we all today? What else am I forgetting to do? Well, I'm muting myself. I'm visible. I'm drawing. Right. Today's prompt is myth opponent. So that's gonna be interesting. I look up the prompt long enough ahead of the stream that I can title the stream with it and tweet about it and the like, but try to avoid doing too much planning, so I do most of my thinking live. Hi, Jeremy. Opponent. I think I might try for something a little bold. Can you tell what it is yet? This. I kind of don't want to pull up a reference image for this because then I just end up I'd probably end up copying it essentially. So I've really just got to work out how this works for myself. I can look up related reference images though, actually. That's sort of what I'm meaning to do. That doesn't feel right at all. If I can get something with a better angle to tell me what I'm doing wrong, that would make much more sense. Very bendy fishing hook. I mean, it could probably catch fish if it wanted. think I'm going to vaguely rough in the pose for now and work out what precisely is wrong with it as I go along. Why did I decide to draw a dragon? Because for myth opponent it's kind of the obvious choice, I suppose. How do a dragon's wings do? Let's move this whole thing down. Because I've not given myself enough canvas to work with. I'm still on the shrink select. Has that actually grabbed everything? I think it actually has. Yeah, that actually grabbed everything. That's pleasantly surprising. No, let's have that do one of them. Yeah, I think this is probably going to turn out to be one of the most sensible things that I draw this month. Just because, like, I guess it's more something to try to make something of than something witty. Thoughts on dragon wings, bat or pterosaur? Everyone seems to go for bat. Like, bat makes sense, and they're sort of familiar wing shapes, but pterosaur also, you know, you're looking at something reptilian. I think avian wings do a similar thing to pterosaur wings. But I think pterosaur wings are more soaring wings rather than active flying. Let's do that there. Remember, there's a whole arm in here. that will come down to some kind of joint there. Say some kind of joint is essentially a shoulder joint. And there's another one back here. I'll do that with that. Could actually probably do with working out where the fingers are in that one. For the sake of consistency, if nothing else. If I bring that down a bit, actually. So, you probably spotted I've not got the green screen up today. I don't actually put the green screen up for the stream. I've had the green screen up the last couple because I'm doing something after it for which I also have the green screen up. So, Friday was D&D, which I tend to have the green screen up for. So I can essentially virtual background myself into an appropriate location for wherever we are at that time. And yesterday was the session. I was actually drawing during yesterday's session, which, Jeremy, you might have noticed I was sort of looking down in this direction for a lot of it. And what I was drawing in the session was something from Friday's D&D session. Which is an interesting item that Sam came up with and my character ended up with, which was a massive pair of scissors, but it comes apart into two short swords. When you think of scissors and you think of a sword, it actually comes out looking really strange and surprisingly unergonomic. I'm actually going to show you what it ends up looking like. So the flat side is the edge, and the rounded side is, well, not an edge, it's a single edge sword. And yeah, it's a weird shape to use. Like, it instantly says this is a scissor rather than this is a sword. And also I realised while drawing it, I'd sort of come in assuming there's a left one and a right one. But, of course, symmetrical scissors, they're the same thing but rotated, not mirrored. So once you take them apart, they're identical, which is interesting. I'm going to change my reference image tag for a sec. I'm going to go with... Let's go with that kind of shape. Hi, John. So, let's get a line up the face going. This is at the moment just general dragon, really. Hello, Molly, are you waking up? I can't be reminded of Final Fantasy IV because I've never played a Final Fantasy, so I'm at something of a disadvantage there. That's not quite symmetry, is it? That sound you may be able to hear is a kid outside hitting a lamppost. Because that's what passes for entertainment round here. I mean, you've seen how this stream's going so far. To be honest, whacking a lamppost is, competition. Incidentally, competition is kind of why, it was one of the reasons anyway, that I'm using YouTube instead of Twitch. Not because there is competition on Twitch, but because Twitch is really set up for people who care about competition. It's set up for people who do this for a living. Well, streaming for a living, not this. Although I don't do any of this for a living. You might be able to hear Captain in the background. I certainly can. That should come more to there, I think. And because I'm just doing this sort of just for fun, it's sort of UI set up sort of not really expecting anyone to just be doing this for the fun of it. Gets a bit sort of incongruous with what you're there for. Like, we do a pub quiz every Tuesday, which has so far been done on Twitch, except for last week we did it over Zoom instead. Which was weird. Zoom's really not set up for it. And yes, setting up just a friendly pub quiz in which no one's making any money whatsoever on Twitch. And it's giving you all these analytics about how your stream performed and your peak viewers and all this. And bots telling you where you can buy followers and subscribers, and just people telling the bot where it can shove it. It's just sort of less friendly. I'd assume flying with magic rather than aerodynamics, because, like, for it to fly with aerodynamics, those wings would have to be absolutely massive. Is that neck too long? I think it should rise a bit more like that. Now, I always select the eraser from over there, despite having a button on the pen that does it, because, except for that time, because I was thinking about it there, because I have to select the pencil from over there, because I don't have a quick tool for that. What's going on here? There we go, pencil's drawing again. So I could switch to eraser, but then I have to go over there to switch back again, so now you must be able to hit Captain. He being squeaky. Hello. You might even have been able to see him there. Can you see him? Oh, you can't see him. Yeah, what if I do this? Oh, and knock things over by my feet. Hello, Captain. He's just over there. So he's on the other end of the sofa from the end that you can see behind me. Causing chaos. Cats. I'm spending quite a bit of time making this head make sense, and at some point I'm going to have to admit that the body doesn't make sense. And to combine your last two thoughts, John, magical flying giraffe. Actually, that's a fairly accurate description of a dragon, isn't it? Well, fairly accurate. It's probably stretching a point. Oh, I think, yep, he's visible now. Oh, Captain. He likes that blanket. Let's do a bit of neatening up around the face. That's come out okay. Now, I assume the horns are just horns, but also, what do dragon horns really do? Back in a sec. I'm going to do something other than a reference image. I just realised I'll take these off, you can still hear me. I am going to grab this, which is the lid of a pot behind me. Which is a dragon. And yes, I should really have thought of doing this earlier. What with it essentially being the pose I'm recreating. Just with the wings in a more sensible position, really. And I'm going to turn the top light on, because it's quite dark and I'm trying to see sort of details of how things work in the finer areas of it. So let's begin by going into that bit. Oops. Actually just pressing the wrong button. Because that comes up much further, that makes sense. Does it make more sense? I think it does. Oh, you're going over there again, Cap. Cap, you're making a lot of noise. What are you knocking over? Cap, really? What? That was a Molly noise, if you caught that. Now, Cap has settled in a box which might be big enough for both of them. That might be why Molly suddenly seems interested. Because she might be planning to join Captain in that box. This needs to come down more sharply, really. And I've put the wings quite far forwards. I stand by my decision to put the wings that far forwards, though. At least compared with the model that I'm looking at for reference. Yeah, I mean, I looked up, when I was looking for a reference for the back leg earlier, I looked up a dog sitting down to try and get that pose. But this is a much more cat pose. And with hindsight, that may have been a better reference to work from. Let's make that flatter. Try that. Up that. I think that wants to come down more sort of there-ish. Captain's now over there. Oh, you can see him. Captain. Hello. What you doing? I'm just having a wash over there. The noise is coming from Molly turning around in her box over there. It's a very cat-heavy stream, this one, isn't it? Well, I don't think I should apologise for that. Cat content is content. And cat content is better content than failing to draw a dragon. At some point, I'm going to have to figure out Are you going to be quiet? I'm going to have to figure out lots. Helicopter giraffe. Oh no, oh no, no, I don't like that. That's... You can keep that mental image, John. I don't want it. I do know what you just wrote, John. I had to read it. buff in some pupils here. Molly, I can still hear chaos happening behind me. What is? One problem that I have when it comes to drawing is I tend to spend a lot of time working on details of things that I'm okay with, so that I can procrastinate on the bits that I'm not. Molly, what? What are you doing? You're settling now. Oh, you're washing. What about you, Cap? He's just settled down. Hello, whoever's just joined us. I am darkening and taking ages about it. This stream will henceforth be known as the Dragon Age. Right. One thing with moving from place to place is you come back and see areas sort of afresh without any preconceptions of what they were doing, and in doing so see whether they're any good. I think I'm going to take back what I said about these wings and take back the wings. Teeth as a dragon. Actually, no, I'm going to leave the joint there, but I'm going to make a sort of elbow there. I guess look for comparable animals. I'm going to leave that flap there as well because that is accurate to bats, and have that line going behind the head to the elbow, because what do you call that? There is a part of the bat wing propatagium. It's a bit of skin that goes across here, essentially. Actually, holding up to the microphone, that won't help. I don't know how in focus that was. If I pull up the camera, I'll be able to tell. You can... In fact, you know what, I'm going to manually focus it for a sec. Yeah, you can sort of see it there. Oh, just bonked the microphone. Don't know why I felt you needed that information. Let's put the focus back here again. Let's bring this forward. Is that about right? Maybe? I am really tempted to do something to hide that claw. Rather than draw detail there. Now, what I think regarding dragons cleaning themselves is sort of a headcanon that I came up with for dragons in a fantasy setting I was planning quite a while ago, is that their scales are kind of like, those shape memory metals and polymers that you can get, that when you heat them up, they retake the shape that they had. So it can use its own breath to cauterize its wounds and also heal the scales over, and therefore is itself very flame resistant. So rather than having to clean itself off, it just burn it all off. But that's just my thinking. Which is probably nerdier than your average dragon thinking. That's weird to think. Bringing science nerdery to your fantasy nerdery. This is a very long tale, isn't it? I can't remember what size I was using this at before. What? Okay, now it's working, that's weird. That might have been Molly going out the cat flap. It might have been Sydney. Can't tell. Great thing with fantasy and mythology is, well, with fantasy anyway, any question you're asked, you don't need to know the answer. You can make it up on the spot, because everyone has different ideas. Wrong button. No, also wrong button. Over here. I think I've accidentally changed pencil type, which is interesting. No, that's not right at all. Let's have a closer look at what I'm doing over here. That's a bit better. Yeah, I do appear to have changed pencil, which wasn't deliberate. So please don't give it human fingers. I have no intention of drawing more human fingers. I have drawn enough human fingers for 1 week. Thank you very much. Which you'll probably be glad to hear, because you've probably seen enough things with human fingers that shouldn't have human fingers for 1 week. Now then. Let's pull up more reference image, shall we? Does it make it easier if I go? I don't think it does. Ooh. Let's put you in that sort of size. So. I mean, I'm a little bigger than I planned, but... I mean, a human sense of querying one's place in the universe. I think a dragon faced by someone who appears to have come equipped for fighting a dragon probably has that. Just gonna tweak with my... For human reference images, incidentally, I use Hero Forge. That would actually have been useful for... It's got Lorica Segmentata that I could have looked up yesterday. Which is great because you can pose it, you can shove it in armour. See what everything sort of looks like, making sense there. And one thing to remember with armour is that it doesn't care about your flexibility. It just is. So, well, plate armour anyway. Chainmail's more forgiving. So actually when you block in the body in this sort of way, you're not far off plate armour. I'm going to give that sword an unnecessary amount of bulk, because an unnecessary amount of bulky sword is far preferable to draw than that. I would rather draw bulky sword than fingers. That's not following the line of that sword in the slightest, is it? Ah, bugger it, I didn't like that line anyway, I guess. Does that look at all right? No, it doesn't. Does that look better? draw the ears lower down, it looks more like they're looking up, which is what you do when standing next to a giant dragon. Oh, you have a really long torso for your length of legs there, don't you, mate? Let's just move your butt. Let's use a different selection tool. And move your butt. Oh, that's just moving the selection. Move your butt. That's improved somewhat. Yeah. See you, John. Haven't heard from Mum and Rach yet this stream. I suspect I've got Facebook messages. Because I don't have Facebook open this time. Because I've learned. How's that looking? I think there should be some visible there, even if it's just like so much. Also, that foot is huge. What are you doing, man? You and your big feet. Don't read into that, please. Okay, so this stream looks like probably being as long as yesterday's was, but hey, I am drawing a dragon and I haven't done that before, so I guess that's okay. Because I think now I'm going to move on to the inking stage. Where do I start? Let's actually start with the guy down here. Hello, Molly. Don't know if you could... Oh, you can't see from there, can you? Well, she's just gone back to the box that she was making noise in earlier. I really need a longer cable for these. I will have tomorrow. I've bought a new set of earphones with a longer cable. So, let's, for one thing, lock that layer so I don't draw it in by accident. Oh wait, if I lock it I can't change transparency, so okay, change transparency first, then lock it. I've got a tune on the brain, so apologies for whistling it constantly. It's a song that I wrote for a pair of D&D characters 3 years ago now. which they perform in a pub, where various characters are sort of gathering, following news that someone is advertising for a party for a quest. As happens. And I can't remember how many bards there ended up being in that, because it was a compilation of, essentially, a short story compilation of character concepts, because I have too many, which John, if he hadn't gone off for tea, would be able to attest, being the GM for probably most of the games I've played in any system by now. Like, not just he's the GM the person who's GM'd most games that I've been in, but more than half of the games I've ever been in any system have probably been being GM'd by John. One of those people who ends up always GMing. Doesn't get opportunity to play that often. Which makes it such a shame that the campaign that I GM'd that he was a player in was so atrocious. But hey, it was my first campaign. Did I learn enough from it to make it better next time? No. But at least 2 bards had their own songs written for them. One was those 2 sort of introducing who they are. Although they're pretending to be one person. There were 2 halflings in a long dress, pretending to be one human. And a ventriloquist dummy. One wasn't pretending to be a ventriloquist dummy. One was providing the voice of a ventriloquist dummy, the other was dummying. So it was a duet supposedly sung by one very good ventriloquist, but actually sung by 2 halflings. The other was about the character's mother, who was one of the other characters that there was a story for. So, like, one chapter was introducing this bard, and he mentioned his mother, about whom he had an epic ballad, which was written in a sort of cross between power metal, folk metal, and Viking skaldic verse. And I actually ended up using a spreadsheet to write it because the rhythm scheme was so weird that I essentially had 1 cell per syllable, so that I could see where the rhymes and emphasis fell. And then the chorus just in common meter, because the chorus was the more power metal side of it. Get that fuller in. Next door but one's dogs. One of whom came into our garden earlier, just for a wander around while they were out on a walk. They're nice enough, even if they're loud. I'm spending a lot of time working on this guy who's about to be mulched, aren't I? Like, do not bet money on this guy. You got a big shield and a big sword, but the dragon's just a dragon. Boom, sorted. It's already won. I'm gonna give this guy sort of tabard thing. Who needs life making easy, hey? I should really have worked out how virtually anything worked before doing this. But like, it's surprisingly hard to get images of real plate armor from behind quickly. Like, I probably could if I'd done a more precise search, gone on it for a bit longer, but as is, I just wanted to get a reference image quickly, so just went back to the Era Forge again and put a bit different armour on the guy. Remember thickness. Okay. Like, annoyingly, that's a drawing I'd be kind of okay with having done. Shame about the dragon, which is the next, let's face it, couple of hours of at least my life, and yours if you feel like joining me. And let's work our way round from the tail. Risky long swoosh. The advantage of doing lots of little strokes is that you lose less when you undo it. The disadvantage is it feels a lot more like it needs undoing more often. Ah, no! Just erase it. Just erase it. I always forget I can do that. Well, that's not good. Eraser. Well, just completely ignoring my pencil lines that I put down, aren't I? Right. It's a bit more like it. I'm surprisingly quite enjoying this. I say surprisingly, I'm doing it voluntarily. I've no idea where I was going with that. Probably nowhere. Yeah. Just sort of rambling slightly aimlessly. But if you don't ramble aimlessly, are you really rambling? Well, it's not quite symmetrical, but hey ho. I think that might make it feel more so. Just bringing those two in slightly. Does it? A little. You awake now, Cap? One weird thing with what I'm drawing this month is it's very different to how I normally draw. Like how I normally draw is more like that scissor sword that I brought up earlier. I say how I normally draw. How I've drawn since starting drawing on this tablet. So there's no ink layer. There's no outline to it, which is sort of the main bulk of these ones. Bring that out further because the other one comes out further. And that sort of, yeah, that's got a better weight to it. I might bring that over there a bit more actually while I'm at it. But it does take considerably longer, and a lot more of it is just sort of toying around. I mean, what I could do is essentially do the pencil layer that I've done under this, and then do the rendering in my own sweet time. See, at this point that looks promising. I feel like that neck should be lower. let's see what this looks like. Just completely ignore the pencil line that I've already done. That looks a better pose to me. That's annoying that I adjusted that neck so many times in the pencil sketch phase and just now decide, nah, let's do something completely different and it works better. I'm going to have to neaten that bit up a bit later though. No, you'd never really be able to see that. Bring that down a bit sharper there. I think. See, I have a slightly unpopular opinion when it comes to fantasy role-playing games, which is that dragons should always be scary. Like all dragons, to all people. There should never be a point where through just adventuring and improving your skills, you get to a point where you can go against a dragon by yourself and come out on top easily. Like, it's a dragon. It's sort of the pinnacle of fantasy at its most fantastical and deadly. And without going in with significant magic on your side, you are puny human, or puny humanoid. Or as dragons call it, breakfast. I think you should have to do more to sort of earn an edge over a dragon, and it be a team effort. A team effort or a failure. honestly quite surprised to find out how uncommonly supported that notion is. Hi, John. That's not looking so bad. Now let's put these wings in. Fingies. Dragon fingies. I don't know whether to neaten that up at all, because like it's not really a neat thing. Little claw tips at the end there. And there. Oh. Let's give you a back, shall we? Dragon. Okay, no, that's not in keeping with what I've done with this one. That's more in keeping. Means it's got a very long forearm, but hey, that's the price you pay. there more. Sort of a hint of one there. Okay, that dragon has a massive head. I'm going to bring this haunch up a bit. Make its legs look a bit bigger. Is that a haunch? Hip thing. Hi Joshua. Dragon. Yeah. Now, for a bait and switch moment, the myth opponent here is this guy. Because that's King Arthur, who's not a real person. Nah, it's a dragon. Did Arthur slay a dragon? Probably. He wasn't around for the dragon I can think of in Arthurian legend, which is a bit weird seeing as it's Arthurian legend, but I dare say he slew a dragon in his time, didn't he? Anyway, let's get on to shading. And this time, I'll give the shading a bit of colour. Look. That's a bit too shady. Because with multiple layers you get quite dark quite quickly. Gonna make that slightly warmer. Bye. I wish dragons were real. Like, not from any sort of practical, this would be a good idea standpoint. It would be objectively terrifying. But it would just make the reference images so much easier to find, you know? It is 7 now, which means we have been going for an hour and a half. And just got onto the shading. That does imply that the inking only took half an hour, which I'm pleasantly surprised by. No, that's not the shape it follows. I'm going about this in such a slapdash haphazard order. head being attached to that wing joint would be just... no. Please no. That would be weird. Sort of like here equivalent. I like the implied lighting this is giving, to be honest. Actually, no, I want that wing to be sort of more folded towards the light, so I'll put some more shading up here. I should really have worked out where my light source was. I sort of know its vague location, but sort of working out what that means is a bit weirder. I think the light source is between dragon and person. Is dragon person? Oh, you think it's the dragon being kind and giving the person the ability to see? Just like, hey, just so you know, just in case, you might be wondering, dragon here. So, don't trip on me in the dark, I guess. Hey, indeed, the dragons have dark vision. They don't really need it. They have their own light source. coming out okay. Whoops. Colour within the lines. You're not 3. Oh. Bucket. Yeah, tongue out concentrating moment. See, dragons being able to see in the dark doesn't strike me as fair. Like, you don't need to ambush me! You're a dragon! That said, adult red dragon's not exactly sneaking up on you, is it? But I suppose this is 5th edition we're talking, where everyone and their grandmother has dark vision. Like, it makes me wonder whether it's just a case that in 5th edition D&D, darkness doesn't exist. Like, it's just always actually fairly light out. And in. I don't know how you go about getting audio clips off YouTube. But the way I say dragon is based on how Karina says it in Drawfee. So I do recommend checking out Drawfee's clips, especially if you like the sound of someone going dragon. I believe it comes from an impersonation of a Yu-Gi-Oh character, because Karina is a big fan of Yu-Gi-Oh. John may be able to recognise now I've said that who it is, as he's my go-to person to know anime things. Although I don't know whether Yu-Gi-Oh's within his sphere. It's a dragon, Yug. Don't know if that's helpful, but I like saying it. By the way, if you're watching this and follow Drawfee, don't send a clip of me saying that to Karina. She doesn't like that. Joey rings a bell. It's a name that I wouldn't have associated with being an anime character. Joey definitely sounds right. I'm essentially doing an imitation of someone else doing an imitation of a character I've never heard, so this body shape is bringing back horse memories. That's a sentence I just said. Oh yeah, dubbed by 4Kids is just a synonym for absolutely wrecked. I remember hearing that 4Kids were going to do a dub of Full Metal Alchemist, and like, they make everything ultra sanitized beyond the point of kid friendly, and I've seen Full Metal Alchemist. I just went, what? This is not gonna work. I have no idea how you think it's gonna work, but you're wrong. Okay. It's a bit pointless me shading with a multiply layer now, come to think of it, because shading with a multiply layer on white is just the same as drawing in that colour. But it does mean that if I do come to colour these in, the shading comes with it. Now I know Khyber is Seto Khyber. Is Khyber surname then? I also know that Khyber is the one who looks like a PS5. It is a nice design. Like, Khyber is the only character I'm properly familiar with in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because, again, Drawfee. What's it doing? Do I need to select the window again with the mouse? And then, or do I need to... There we go, that works. I thought that worked anyway. Why? Oh, I'm on the ink layer. Why am I on the ink layer? Shading. This guy is so tiny. Why are you fighting a dragon man? and bucket that one in as well. Does bucket that? Ah, bucketing that in works. That's good. That should be entirely in shade. Maybe a bit of edge lighting there. I just heard a noise and I don't know what it was. What's upsetting about Yu-Gi-Oh! Season 4, should I ask? Big fantasy pauldrons. Although technically they're spolders. Pauldron goes all the way around, it covers the armpit as well. Spolder is the bit that goes on top. But people call them pauldrons these days anyway. That looks about right. Just gonna get some more in here. How do you know it's Yu-Gi-Oh! If it doesn't end in a card game? Did it start with one? Sorry I'm being so quiet and I haven't read chat in a while. It turns out it takes a lot of concentration to shade metal. Who knew? Oof. Which isn't something I've done before. Which I probably should have been doing before. Oh, that shadow's actually come out quite nicely. I'm quite pleased with that. There needs to be more shadow of the head, though. Really. The wings. Probably not coming around that much, to be fair. Sort of like that. Oh. Also, bucket. Right. I think the best way to summarise that is worse than I hoped, better than I expected. Like, I had a clear mental image of my head in my head. Well, once I'd got any idea whatsoever. Of what I wanted to be doing here. And while this isn't sort of perfectly it, it's closer than I expected to get. Just gonna do a bit more there, sort of more picking out edges. So, there we go. Myth opponent. head on the wing joint is a bit weird. I've got a bit of a tangent there. I think if I bring the shadows of the head out a bit more, that might help matters there somewhat. And there. Made noises like I was done. Like, about ready to say goodbye. Then went, oh, wait a sec, no, I could make this a bit more sensible. I think, like, actually putting fold lines on the wings, that makes a bit difference. Bit of shading at the joints. That was Molly sort of sliding to the side in her sleep. That's a motorbike. I'm not doing any shading here. That would make sense. Right. No, not quite. That'll do. Myth opponent. As usual, I've no idea what tomorrow is, but see some of you there.